like that's going.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to call the meeting to order, 7 o'clock, and we start with a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there any correspondence?
There is not.
Thank you. Public comment? Anyone signed up? All right. You have before you the consent agenda as presented. Are there any extractions? None. I will take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. PTO update, do we have? Not yet. So we'll skip over that for now. Superintendent's report. Dr. Stella, you're up.
Okay, thank you. Well, good evening, everyone. I'd like to start with something that's close to my heart. I'd like to really acknowledge our student council. You're going to hear more about the student council later, so I'm not stealing anything from our reporters out in the audience. But one of the campaigns that the student council initiated this year is that every month they have a theme that they're promoting throughout the school in collaboration with our school climate committee that supports the emotional, social, cultural atmosphere within the school. And for the month of November, the campaign was on a simple but profound thing, and that's greeting others with a good morning, greeting their peers and greeting adults as they come in. So we had student council ambassadors go to all the classrooms in the school, so that was good in developing their presentation style and giving the rationale and encouraging all students to partake in this campaign. So I do notice an increase in good mornings. So keep up the good work, student council. And you'll be hearing more about the student council later in the meeting. I'd like to mention the fact that as recently as 2 years ago, our demographic projections indicated that we would have a student population of 717. In the 2014-15 year, as you know, we have approximately 800 students. I will be working on projections for the 15-16 year and bringing them to the December meeting. I want to thank the Board of Education and the town, however, for supporting the increase of classes at the school. They were needed and put to good use. So our class size is within guidelines with the exception of maybe one child in one class on one grade over the threshold. I had the opportunity to attend the CAPS CAPE conference this weekend. Lisa Cano was there on Friday with me. Lisa, do you want to share anything about it?
I thought it was wonderful. I particularly enjoyed the keynote speaker on Friday morning. An education former minister in Finland and now at the Harvard Education School. And he spoke a lot about what he thought went into Finland's success. And I thought there was for the most part, it's a very different kind of system than what we face in the United States. But I thought there were some interesting lessons that we can take from his conclusions, in particular about sort of a focus on individualized teaching, letting teachers teach, a de-emphasis of competition and grades, looking at each kid by their own ability, grading them not against some grade level standard, but against who they are, where they're from, what they can do, and building a lot of time for play in the day. I thought, it made all the sense in the world to hear him, and he spoke with a lot of authority, I thought.
Absolutely. One of his many books, my bedtime reading, Finnish Lessons, what the world can learn from the educational change in Finland. And one of the things he says is that Finland doesn't pay attention to international scores or things of that sort. They focus on the child. Two big themes that they have is equity in education and empowerment of women. And what he said too, now here's a country that comes out #1 in the past several years in a number of international things. There's many visitors come to Finland to look at their schools and they ask, where did you get your ideas from? And how did you develop your ideas? And he said it was a simple answer. We got them from the United States. He said, we're putting into operation a lot of things that have been developed in the States. And he said, we have one school system here in Finland, and our culture and the way we do things has a lot to do with our success. We look at the whole child. Equity is important for us. That means not only education, but providing for the health needs of children, providing for the social needs, the whole gamut of what affects a child. And so he said it's very hard to compare countries because of cultural differences, but that he did say that the United States is a country with thousands of school systems, so when you say one school system, it doesn't really apply to the United States. And there are many examples of excellence. He thinks the media, in his words, has to be redirected, that it has a broad-based, broad brush approach in categorizing U.S. education as if there was one uniform system. And so he was very stimulating in his thoughts. There was another speaker, Dr. Bill Badgett from the International Center for Leadership in Education, and his theme was leading change during difficult times. And one focus was that change is happening so fast around us that we can't keep up with it, and just be careful that we don't hang on to things of the past that prepared children in a different era, that the future is, we see it today, is so different, and that we have to prepare the children for that. And more rigorous curriculum, and towards more personalized learning too. He emphasized the fact of the importance of going beyond the classroom for instruction as well. But both stimulating speakers, and there was a rich assortment of workshops to choose from. So I'm hoping next year we'll have a participation from most of the board at that. It was a good networking opportunity too. We had colleagues from superintendents and colleagues from the other board districts with us as well. So thank you for the opportunity for allowing us to go to that. The building upgrade is, as planned, is slowing down at this time of the year. Looking back, where, as I said to the Board of Selectmen, we're grateful for the type of work and the amount of work that was done, particularly in the A wing and the C wing, where it was badly needed, and the parts of the roof that were needed over the B, the center part of the roof, and the C over the B area. The town building committee is working as planned on comprehensive security update and timetable that it enhances the security features at our school. And these will be based on new state guidelines, and more information will follow on that in the near future. Budget-wise, we're preparing for the 15-16 budget. Boy, time's flying along. And our mantra as in the past will be to constantly improve the quality of education of our children, while at the same time respecting our taxpayers. I hope to have a recommendation to start discussion at the Board of Finance in December, and for the school board in December as well. Veterans Day ceremony last week. Veterans Day was a day of school, and it was a day of, I would say, of powerful learning. What a beautiful ceremony it was to gather the entire school population, all of our 800 children, our entire staff out in front. And I'm glad the weather cooperated with us. Mr. Letch was there with the marching band and patriotic songs. We had the first selectman give a welcome. In my welcome, I charged the children with a task. I said, by the end of the day, you're going to have a rich menu of different learning activities during the day connected with Veterans Day. Take some of those lessons home with you, boys and girls, to the supper table and discuss them with your families. So I'm hoping that happened. We had many veterans visiting that day. Mrs. Prisco gave opening remarks, and she introduced the veterans, including staff members. And many of those veterans went to visit our classrooms and talk with the children. And Mrs. Prisco, following, I think this is year number 2 or 3, she has a nice connection with the Veterans Hospital in West Haven, and she personally delivered letters and cards from the children to our veterans at the hospital, many of whom said they want to come next year and participate as well. So kudos to everyone involved with that. And I'll pass the mic over to Mrs. Prisco for the Beecher Road School update, and any other things you want to say about Veterans Day.
Well, actually, thank you. That's actually where I was going to start. I would be remiss. It is one of the only times that we do get together as an entire school community, and we fit outside. Mr. Lutch, and the band students let us off, and we did have some wonderful comments. But when I deliver those cards and letters to the volunteer services person that I work with, Faust, he can't express enough the appreciation. We usually have enough to provide a card, a letter, a picture on a breakfast tray and a lunch tray for an extended period of time. So that work will continue, and as Dr. Stella said, we have now a connection to bring the folks that come here. We love for the children to hear their stories, but this connection will bring some veterans, younger, maybe women, a variety of folks to hear, and we'd love to introduce the grandpas and the grandmas, but this would bring another perspective for our children to see. So that, thank you for starting, because it is a wonderful, wonderful experience for the students. The learning starts long before the day. Also, I hope that people are receiving the principal's message in its new format as requested. It's coming out electronically right to your email. It is bi-weekly, and again, I try to provide a snapshot of what's happening, dates to remember. We are also encouraging and reminding parents, cell phone numbers change, emails change. Please keep that information updated for us. In the event that we ever need to reach family members, if a child is ill, or Dr. Stella was talking about security, if there is some type of emergency, and we need to reach families, the most updated information is always helpful. We did have a practice evacuation. It is part of what we do as part of our monthly drills. So far we've had fire drill, bus evacuation, a school evacuation, and all have been very, very successful. We will continue to do those drills, and that includes upcoming more fire drills. We may even block an exit, we've done that before, and a lockdown drill, which is part of our protocols to do throughout the course of the year. So I always like to highlight a few of the extra things that we do here at Beecher, and those include either some collaborations with the PTO and teachers planning enrichment events, or even field trips. Our 5th graders went to the David Humphrey House as part of their study, their historical study. Our MAG students had an opportunity to visit the Green, Yale Bowl as part of their New Haven Theme Project for this year. 1st graders went to the Ansonian Nature Center, and I'm sure that from 1st grade, I hope that you are all enjoying the Ask Your Child. I, as a parent too, ask, what did you do today? And I sometimes get nothing, but it was a really long day. So the 1st grade team, to help start that conversation going, sends home an Ask Your Child, and it's just a little bit of information about what 1st graders might have done that day. It's not daily, but it really has helped to start some conversations in 1st grade, because 6-year-olds stay here a long time, and nothing or fine isn't really what a mom or dad or grandma wants to hear, so it really helps. We've also had Les Julian, kindergarten favorite, came music, song, dance for our kindergarten students, and so we do want to thank the PTO for that wonderful collaboration. I'm going to toot our horn a little bit. We frequently get asked for teachers in other districts to come and look at the work that we do in reading, how we develop lifelong readers, lovers of literacy. And we had a visit from a kindergarten team of teachers who visited all of our kindergarten classrooms. We sat and we talked with this kindergarten team, with our kindergarten team, and what a rich discussion it was. But the reason I'm tooting the horn is teachers don't really realize how much they do with students until they tell it to someone else. So in that conversation, after the other kindergarten teachers left, there was a realization. We really are going in the right direction with our kindergarten, and with all our students, but it was really brought to light when we talked to teachers and how much they want to do the same things that we're doing. Right after that team left, I received an email from the principal that said, can 6th grade come next? So we will continue to share what we do, but I think it helps our teachers to really reflect on the work that they are doing. And last thing, I will say Officer Lynch has started there with our 6th graders. It too is a great collaboration. The Woodbridge Police Department, the town, and the Board of Ed allowing Officer Lynch to be here. He is truly what it means to be a resource for us. So, student council, I'm sorry. See, I'd already said it. So I had the opportunity to join the student council early last Thursday morning for our attempt to get into the Guinness Book of World Records. So I'm going to let Ms. Simowitz, who is one of the advisors of Student Council, give you a few words.
I'm just going to send some pictures and flyers around just very quickly for you to take a look at. I'm not sure if you all know about Student Council. I don't think we've done a formal presentation. Right now, we have 4 advisors, and we have 28 students, 16 sixth grades and students and 12 grade 5 students, and they represent each one of the classrooms in 5th and 6th grade. And we meet every E-Day at 8 o'clock, 8:15-ish in the morning, and then the children get back to start their academic day. But they've done a lot of things this year, even though the year's only three months old. They welcome students and staff to Beecher Road School on the first day of school. 4 of the students help pick up the police and pick up the grounds after the ice cream social in the first week of school. They had a movie night, 80-plus students attended that, and I heard it was a big hit, although we have to do something with the sound the next time we do it. They volunteered to work at the Halloween Hoot, and they worked on the Friday before the Hoot. They painted signs, and they packed stuff for the PTO. As you know, they did this morning greeting challenge along with the Safe School Climate Committee that Mrs. Haverkamp is the chair of. And the students actually went to all the pre-K through grade 4 classrooms to talk about how important it is to set a positive tone at the beginning of the day. Looking down the road, we're putting together proposals for the book fair. We've been asked by the PTO to do that again. And we're also trying to present or put together a proposal for a school store, which again, I'm not sure. It has to go through a lot of channels before it's accepted, but we're hoping that'll happen. So in regards to cup stacking, the World Sports Stacking Association has a cup stacking challenge, and it's been in the Guinness Book of World Records. I mean, you have to look in it now. It's been there for about 7 or 8 years. It started with about 70,000 students. It's up to now. They had 555,000 students last year, and this year they were trying to break 600,000. Individuals all over the world stacking cups for a minimum of 30 minutes, and they were going to be part of trying to break this Guinness Book of World Records. I said, oh, how much fun would that be? So we started in the morning, and one of the pictures that's going around is a picture of all the kids who participated in the morning. Their parents brought them to school at about 7:30, and then we started stacking about 20 up, and we stacked for our 30 minutes, and then we posed for our picture. And then during the course of the day, Mr. Hocking and I did sports stacking with 5 of our classes that we had that day, because it all has to take place on that day. And Beecher Road School was able to submit a count of 134 students. And I just went on the website before I came to the meeting. They're at 570 some odd thousand, so they have officially beaten the Guinness Book of World Records. Obviously, they don't name all the thousands of schools, and all the kids want to know if their names were going to be in the book, and no, they're not. But they will know that they've been a part of this sports stacking challenge. So we had some reporters on the scene. One of the 6th graders wrote, interviewed people. And somebody's granddaughter said it was very fun but tiring. I don't know if you know who that is, Carl. Another student said, I really, really liked it. Another student wrote,
2 choices.
what? You have at least 2 choices, that's right. One student wrote, it was shocking, but a good kind of shocking though. Too good to be true, shocking. All over, this was a fun event that we got a chance to be a part of. And I'm glad of being, I'm glad that I'm a part of creating a world record. So we're trying to do things to make the climate of school a little bit happier, friendlier, improve on a very good product already. So that's Student Council.
Thank you so much.
Sandy.
A good school to me is sure, high academic performance, but also a good school has a magic and celebration to it. And there was, at 7:30 in the morning, there was magic and celebration in the North Gym. But the lessons these children learned, I think, were wonderful. They learned teamwork, collaboration, and they had a sense of teaming up with other children globally in other continents. So it was a fun day and a learning day at the same time. We have to thank our student council and our moderators. Mrs. Simowitz, you want to mention the moderators' names?
Your advisors.
Mrs. Capuzzi.
Oh, I'm sorry, Teresa Nacuzzi, Kayla Widmeyer, Beth Green, myself.
Yeah, it's wonderful to see our teachers step forward and volunteer and give up their time to help our children. So thank you so much. We talk about the physical safety of our children, upgrades and equipment and so on, but also the health needs, social health needs of our children are very, very important, the emotional needs. And the two go hand in hand. Beecher Road School has established many programs to support the social and emotional development of children. It's always a work in progress. And as the world gets more challenging for all of us, including our children, so do the needs become more challenging within the school setting. Sheila Haverkamp wears many hats. She's our Director of Special Education. She's the Safe School Climate Director, the Chair of the school's Social Climate Committee, among many other hats, and she does all of them very, very well. And Sheila's going to give us an executive summary of some of the programs that we have that are designed to help the social emotional development.
Good evening. It's nice to see everybody this evening, and it's a great follow-up to what Sandy just was talking about in terms of celebrating what's happening here at the school and always knowing that we have another step to take in the direction of providing a safe and secure and happy learning environment for all of our students. So I'm going to start with saying, where are we? I went back to the parent survey, and as a sampling of information, I would recommend Beecher Road School to a friend seeking a school for their child. There was 97% positive response. The school encourages students to be respectful to each other. 96% of the respondents gave that a positive response. I feel welcome at the school, 95%. My child is treated respectfully by his peers in class, was a 94%. And the school provides an environment that supports the social emotional development of children, was 92% positive. So the feedback that we're getting is that we are on the right road, but we always have work to do. I think if you asked teachers, parents, community members, people might tell you that one of the most challenging things about the work we do is supporting students who are behaviorally dysregulated. It's challenging on a daily basis, but the work that we do is so important. I just wanted to, I know that we shared this document last year and can give copies to anyone who is interested. The document has come from the work of several committees. But the goals for the school in terms of our approach to behavior, to establish a calm, orderly, and safe environment for learning, to foster an appreciation for the roles of rules in the school community, to help children develop self-control and self-discipline, to teach children to be responsible, contributing members of the democratic society, and to promote respectful, kind, and healthy adult-to-child, child-to-child, adult-to-adult relationships. So that's what we're working toward on a daily basis. The School Climate Committee is not the first committee at Beecher Road School to be working on social and emotional development of children. This work started way before I came to this building. Some of the information that brought Responsive Classroom to this building was before I became involved. And one of the things that attracted me to, in fact, to the district was the Responsive Classroom. The Safe School Climate Committee itself was formed in order to meet the requirements of the legislation around bullying. So our first task was to bring together that legislation into an appropriate document for addressing bullying in the schools. And that's a requirement that we maintain that plan. But what we're looking at now is trying to move to a more global look at the school and give it a more comprehensive approach to a climate and culture that supports all. One of the things that we take pride in, and it's already been discussed tonight, is the leadership opportunities that we have for children. And we believe that those contribute to their development as social and emotional beings who are growing and developing. So student council clearly is one. I won't go into any more detail on that. The environmental stewards, supporting I just talked to Karen Stevinger today, and she was talking about how excited that group of students were about some ideas they had for more learning and more contribution to the community. We have reading mentors, we have the safety patrol, but we also have band and chorus and the arts, Arts Week, drama, a math club, things that bring us together as community. In terms of prevention, which is always our first, the first alert. If we prevent, we've done our job. The school-wide behavioral supports, again, are outlined in this document with many evidence-based and research-based strategies for supporting students as they learn the skills of social interaction. We have classroom yoga that goes from kindergarten to 3rd grade. And what we're doing here is helping students find their own sense of calm, their own sense, understanding how to calm themselves, and when they need a deep breath, they know how to take it. So that's worked out really well. We have after-school programs like Guided Study that we collaborate with youth services on to support students in their academic growth. And as we've discussed before, with the SRBI model, we are looking at the academic side of the pyramid as well as the behavioral side of the pyramid. And so we have tiers of intervention to support students. We look at responsive classroom as our foundation. That's the good teaching that we provide for all students. And in a tiered approach, we would expect that to be effective for 80 to 85% of the population. That's what they need, is that good, solid foundation. We have almost 90% of our certified staff trained. It's not a lockstep method, it's a philosophy. So it translates differently in classrooms, but the underpinnings are the same for all of us. The social curriculum is as important as the academic curriculum. Social skills need to be taught. They need to be taught explicitly. They need to be practiced regularly, and they need to be valued. So we have common expectations for the areas that we all share in the building, and we see that as building that first foundation of cohesiveness. For Tier 2, we provide lunch groups, we provide child-led play, individual and small group counseling, and check-in and check-out. So the lunch groups are provided at all age levels, starting at 1st grade up. And at a lunch group, the students set their own goals. They may have similar focus, they may have separate goals, but it's clear that they know what they're working on, and they are interacting with peer models who can set goals for themselves as well, and through those lunch groups develop interactive skills. Child-led play is it's an outgrowth of our primary mental health grant. What we're trying to do with child-led play is to really help students who are at risk in school adjustment. We're helping them gain confidence and social skills in a way that helps them focus on their learning. The children developed a school-based, trusting relationship with one adult, and the goal is to reduce social, emotional, and adjustment difficulties and enhance learning. For Tier 3, this is the small, maybe 3 to 5% of students who need an even more intense support system in order to behave in a regulated manner. And for these students, we use an assessment called a functionally based assessment, and then we write a behavior plan. There are a lot of reasons for dysregulation behaviorally, socially, emotionally. Some of those can be a situational crisis where we deal with it, help the students move forward, and support them while they need it in that situation or crisis time in their life. There can be mental health issues, there can be medical complications, and there can be developmental disabilities that require this kind of intensity. In terms of our counseling and school psychology department, we have 2 full-time school psychologists. They each carry a caseload, meaning students with special needs and or 504 plans of about 30 or more children each. They interact with parents on a regular basis. They provide intervention at a crisis time, and they conduct the evaluations that are required for special education services and 504 services. We have a half-time school counselor. She carries a caseload of 25 to 30 as well. She does the same kinds of things in terms of crisis intervention and parent communication. We have 1 full-time child associate. Child associate is technically a teacher assistant. She works with the counseling department, providing yoga, child-led play, supporting lunch groups, supporting children as needed. And then we have a half-time child associate paid for by the grant, the PMHP grant. In terms of the supporting families, we have our family team. It's a comprehensive group. Beecher Road School faculty. The town youth services is represented. Clifford Beers is represented. Domestic violence, any comprehensive services. And our job at the family team is to support families in accessing community services that will help them in whatever's happening to the family at the time. We also try to provide parent workshops, family yoga, which is well attended. We have over 60 people, adults and children, doing yoga together in March, 4 nights. It's a wonderful thing to see. So professional development is something that's very important for us to continue to grow and to help students grow and develop. This year we have a focus on differentiation, and I think what we all know is the more comfortable students are with being able to show what they know in a way that's meaningful to them, the more comfortable they're going to be in school academically. We've had the opportunity to have faculty meetings devoted to professional development in social emotional development. Been very successful and highly regarded by the staff through their feedback. We have a board certified behavior analyst. We contract with ACES to have that support to help us build appropriate programs for students with needs in the behavioral area. Our occupational therapist works very closely with all of us, looking at sensory integration and how that kind of need for input and movement supports students' self-regulation and self-monitoring. And we do have a plan for November 26th. We're going to be working on something called the zones of regulation. So in special services and specialists are going to join together to look at a program that is developmentally appropriate in providing tools for self-regulation, self-monitoring for students. So that's sort of everything in a nutshell. I'll leave you with one quote, and then if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them or get the information for you if I can. Dr. Ross Green, who wrote The Explosive Child and other books as a researcher at Harvard, kids do well if they can. If a child had the skills to exhibit adaptive behavior, he wouldn't be exhibiting challenging behavior. That's because doing well is always preferable to not doing well. Children do well if they can. If they need us, we have a number of ways to help support them and work with families.
Thank you so much.
Any questions?
That's something.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about what sort of channels you have for identifying kids who have needs? Obviously, some of them are going to show up through parents and other
We do.
things, but
We do. So we start early with our interactions with the preschools in the community. And we collaborate with them using, it's called the DECA, it's a Devereaux Early Child Development Scale that helps us identify students who have needs. And then we can make those connections before they even come to kindergarten. So we start there, working with families in preschools. We use the, it's called the AML, and I'll try to remember what those stand for: acting out, mood, and learning problems. So it's a rating scale that the teachers fill out to help us determine students who are at risk.
Do they do that for all students? Oh, interesting.
And that's required by PMHP. But we have expanded it right up through the intermediate grades. And so we're able to take a look from the input of the classroom teachers, who is a child who's at risk, and those are the children for whom we try to intervene right away. So child-led play is just what it sounds like. It's a time for the student to build that relationship, to build their confidence, and to know that they can make a difference through their own decision-making. Those that provide child-led play are trained through the primary mental health grant through the State Department. Oh,
That does. How does the child-led play kind of overlay with what's otherwise going on in the younger classrooms? And I mean, it sounds like
it's a
kind of
one-to-one
seeing
playtime once or
everywhere.
twice a week that a
In the
child.
classroom?
No, separate. Yeah, individual.
So I just, you referred to the parent survey, and as I said when we first presented, I don't agree necessarily with the percentages
Right.
being as high as they are, because I think that neither agree or disagree is considered a negative in surveys. But one thing that when I went back through some of it, there were two items that while we scored high, the strongly agree was really low. We had people agreeing with the statement, but again, when you're looking at a Likert scale, you can agree, but two questions, completely different areas in the thing. One was about my child is treated respectfully by his or her peers, and the other one is the school encourages students to be respectful of one another. Both of those scored pretty low on the strongly agree, like 23%. The number is still good. It's like 86% when I take out the neither agree or disagree, or it looks like 94% if you just take those people out. But how do we address, so obviously the point of this is not to just say that we're 94% good, but to look at areas for improvement. So any insight
Any
as to why?
teacher on any given day will
Yeah.
tell you that we are in need of improvement.
No. So why? So I just think it's interesting because we've been doing responsive classrooms for a long time, which to me addresses that kind of like sort of how you treat one another, how you behave in a classroom, and yet for some reason, whether it's the kids or just the parents perceive it a certain way, like what in your survey questions, like what are interventions you can do based on questions, right? I don't know if I'm asking that clearly, but like in the hospital when we do Press-Gainies, there's actually interventions based on what answers we get to certain questions. So if we know people are answering certain questions regularly a certain way, there are actions that have been taken by other places to say, these are the ways to improve this so that people do better on it. And I don't know if we've looked that deep into it yet, but I mean, to me, that's like one thing that just popped out was I was surprised that most of the other sort of strongly agree is like 50-50. Like half the parents said strongly agree, half the parents said, moderately agree, but those are sort of lower, and they're, to me, the same question asked a different way, right? I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm not being clear with my question, but.
Well, I'll do my best, and then you can, I understand that there's lots of different ways to look at the numbers, and we can all, what I was trying to do is give a broad brush at the beginning, and not to say that there isn't room for growth. I think I said that in my initial introduction. So in terms of, if we see this, we prescribe this, we're not there. And I'm not actually sure that that's where I want to be, but that's certainly a topic for discussion. We have, for instance, in this document, a number of intervention strategies, but they're all applied so individually. That a student may be having difficulty with respectful behavior, as I said, for any number of reasons. So the way that we're going to approach that is totally individualized. So I don't have a prescription, but I do know that on a regular basis, people are honing in on that particular child to see what is it that we can do to help them make the next step forward. And to the extent that school psychologist recently went to visit parents at their business in the evening, because that was the best way that she could reach them. So the commitment is there to each individual.
Cheryl, I want to thank you and the guidance department for the work that you do. And very often, it's not seen. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes work that's done. And what I'm impressed with is the focus on the child. Every child is so unique, so different. The survey is one instrument that we use. It's a broad brush, but we look at the child and like to use a number of tools. And by the way, when we give the survey again, this is what an outside independent company developed out of Yale. And I think Carl was suggesting at first to look into it. But they have a researcher on there, Harvard graduate there, whose business is to research surveys. So we can go back to him and question anything as far as how we ask the question or what it means and so on. But what I would say with the surveys, it's just a one shot. It gives us a broad brush of what the community is thinking too. But what I'm very impressed with is the way our psychologists and our guidance counselors really look at every child and use that child as the center of the world. We may, in our budget proposal, we may be asking for a slight increase in this area because again, the needs are there. We're very committed as a school to working with social and emotional development. And we know that not only at Beecher Road School, across the country with our complex society, that there's a small group but a growing group of children entering with more complex problems. And we want to address them right from the beginning. So thank you so much. Okay. The next part of my report is the summer school update. And as we all know, thank you to everyone. We asked for, we got what we asked for, the upgrade. That meant that this building became a construction site during the summer, and a big decision had to be made. We have a multitude of summer programs serving hundreds of children. So what to do with those programs? It's a wonderful opportunity to thank the board and the town for the support that you all gave in allowing us to move the programs. In doing so, I thank Amity, and also to Ezra Academy. We thank Ezra Academy. The challenges were great because we were on new ground. How do we adapt an elementary program to a high school? The rooms are different, the rules are different, what we could do is different. The equipment, the sizes of furniture, everything was different, so the challenges were there. So yes, there was angst in the beginning as we tried to figure things out, trying to have to work with another district with their cleaning schedules and so on. And there was a financial element involved too, moving furniture and custodial work and rentals and things of that sort. What I could say is that the decision was made because of our core value. Core value that our children are important, our Beecher Road School family community is important, and we just didn't want to say, see you around in 2 years. So, and in visiting the program, I have to say our program directors worked so hard, and our teachers did. You could see the angst before the program started and the work, but once the program started, I'll tell you, I went over there many times. I interviewed children, teachers, not only myself, other people did too, and directors and parents especially. I did not hear one negative. I heard lots of positives about I'll repeat again, one first grader said, I feel like I'm in college here, or was that a kindergartner that said that? And I saw the kindergartners marching along. We thought that would be hard setting them up there. They were marching along like little ducks to the pond to study the nature there and so on. The long and short of it, my sense, and my directors can tell if it's otherwise, that the children and parents fell in love with the sites, and it might be hard pulling them back. But I'm going to ask, starting with Kathy Salinardi, who was in charge of our extended day, to just give their feelings about the program, the challenges and successes. Then I'll ask Sandy Simwitz and Teresa Nacuzzi.
We actually felt like we needed the moral
gonna do it
support. So we're both
together.
gonna come up
All
with
three of
us.
us?
We'll spend a lot of time together. All three of us this summer. We're like best
And then
buddies.
Al will have the hard job of doing the financials after that.
Okay.
That's wonderful.
So, we had a lot of anxiety when we were told that there was a possibility of going up to the high school. And we thought, oh, these 4.5-year-olds that are coming up to the high school. And there were many, many hours of collaboration prior to prepping the high school for our programs. We looked at the facility several times. Will this work? Will it not work? Teresa, Sandy, Dr. Stella, Al, we all sat there for many, many meetings, and finally we said, we think it'll work. And we needed to put everything in place so that we could receive our young children in an environment like the high school. The high school we looked at the bathrooms, we looked at the furniture, as Dr. Stella had said, we looked at the fields, we didn't have a playground. What would we do? How would we serve up a program that the parents and the children are used to? And after many hours of planning, we feel that we were very successful. We had the pond, we had an air-conditioned building, we had a lot of staff in place, we had a plan in place as far as transporting our children from the bathrooms to the fields, to recreation, to receiving them from recreation later in the day, and filtering them into the different programs. And from everything that we heard from the children to the parents, everyone loved our program. And I think that, there were some things that we came across as the summer went on, such as, the doors being locked at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So we were looking at the security that needed to be put in place. But we just took one of the teachers, they sat there, they helped with that security piece. Things that maybe we hadn't seen early on. Everything else worked out really well, and I think that everyone was very happy.
And we also moved a whole nurses station over to the high school. And kudos to the administration who kept on negotiating with the high school, because when we originally started our negotiations, we didn't have a nurses station. We didn't have full access to the building. We would have to move from one activity to another, going outside the building. It was very funny. It was the process of educating the high school staff and administration about an elementary school program. Like they said, we can't have your kids running all over the building unsupervised. Like, when do we ever let children run all over a building unsupervised? I mean, that's just not in our encyclopedia or dictionary of terminology. But once we got there, the high school administration, the custodial staff, and the other teachers at the high school were very welcoming. Some of them were our food judges. Our restaurant week, the superintendent came, and one of the staff in the computer lab, they were judges of our restaurant offerings. So it was a wonderful collaboration that we were very tentative going in, but felt very good at the end. In fact, we were telling Dr. Stella we might not want to come back next summer unless we had air conditioning here. Or in 2 years, unless we had air conditioning here. We had to buy like little step stools for every bathroom so that our elementary school kids could reach the sinks and the toilets. Those were the kinds of things that all that walking through, realizing, whoa, we need to accommodate this. So it was quite a learning experience, and I think everybody worked together to make it work.
And we brought over tables that, for the kindergartners.
Chairs.
We brought over the smaller chairs. We made it very child-friendly. The entire environment, whether it were the bulletin boards, the furniture, the activities that we offered, we made it very child-friendly. And I think that Teresa was there early in the morning as well, and her program was housed in the same area where our programs were housed in. It seemed like everyone was very happy.
Yeah.
Well, thanks
Yeah,
to...
If I could just mention, Teresa has again, we have a variety of programs. Teresa's is a Title I supported program, a small but a focused program on helping children who who have academic needs. She did a magnificent job of pulling it together.
So I just want to thank you, Dr. Stella, and you, Al, for making it absolutely seamless for us to move our program and the materials from Beecher Road School all the way over there. It was really seamless. I think the signage really helped clearly point out where parents needed to go. Transportation went off without a hitch. In terms of the program that I run, ever since I've been here since 1996, the Language Arts Center has offered this kind of summer academic program, and it's a regular education program meant to prevent the summer slide. So that's usually typically defined as when kids are losing academic skills over the summer. So what we do is we plan activities that are very well balanced, and the activities involve all the components of reading. So they involve phonemic awareness and phonics and comprehension strategies, fluency strategies, all of that. It's designed for students, like Dr. Stella, like you said, students who are struggling, but also those kids who may need to just maintain a level of reading that they just reached. So they need more time within the level to practice their reading strategies or practice their comprehension skills. So the students this year, there were about 26, and enrollment was higher than ever. I don't know about your enrollments, but this was the highest ever in the years of our history here. And the students were ranging from students entering grade 1 up until grade 5. So we had a real wide range of students. So I could go on about the academic successes, the growth that they showed, the confidence levels that were built by the students. What we really love to see in our program are the friendships that are being formed cross grade level. That's really important for us to see. So we had a couple of new things this year, and one of the most important things was our collaboration with the Woodbridge Town Library. They were absolutely under the direction of Judy Rabin, who is just a treasure in this town. We collaborated together, and we had a way for students to challenge themselves to read 10 books over the summer. There was a campaign called Give Us 10 that was started here at Beecher by Monique McDonald and Mary Venturio and I. So we put together this great, really powerful, challenging program for the students, involved the Woodbridge Town Library, and had a great, successful turnout. In fact, behind me, you can see that's the robot that many students had their picture taken with. Part of that reading campaign was to also complete reading logs. Well, the students were originally filling out, I think there were about 200 book logs that were ordered. Judy Rabin reported having to order hundreds more because so many students were inspired to read 10 books, to read with the reading robot, and our program helped to encourage that. There's nothing more than our program loves than to develop a love of reading. So our highly qualified teachers, it was Mr. De Palma, we had Mrs. Finelli, we had Mrs. Ham. They were highly qualified teachers who worked alongside me. And our goal every day was to make sure that these students loved reading. So we brought together great materials for them to use, great activities, and for a 2-hour program for our 16 sessions, we did very well. The students increased their stamina. We had great feedback from a parent. In fact, if you don't mind, I'd like to read an email now from a parent. This was sent to me the day after the program ended. Teresa, I'd like to thank you and the other teachers for making my son's experience very positive. I know it was productive because he feels more confident in his reading. He really enjoyed coming because he never gave me a hard time in the mornings. That always makes it easier. A parent donated tote bags or book bags at the end of our program, so this is what she's referring to. As for the tote bag gift, the moment we left the classroom, my son said, "I know exactly what I'm going to put in here." So she said, my son held up the new book bag, and he said, "My fishing equipment." So the parent continued, "You have to laugh. I will encourage him to use it.
as a book bag. So we had a newsletter that went out weekly that highlighted a reading tip of the week and highlighted the strategies that we were teaching. And I can say that the teachers and I really work together closely as a professional learning community. Nobody has every answer to every question, but working together, we really grew as professionals.
I was impressed by the fact that you were all dressed as scientists.
Okay, so that's another new component. We added the science literacy component because coming down from the state of Connecticut, we had a theme, or they generated a theme called Fizz Boom Read. So the teachers and I, we took that theme and we ran with it. And we made sure every Monday we would dress up in our pure white lab coats with our science glasses on, we greeted the children, and we had experiments ready for them to participate in. And there's nothing more than kids love than science. Like, they may not know it's the laws of gravity or, chemistry that's really happening. They were just intrigued, and that led to more reading and writing within science. So we even had nonfiction. So all in all, a very positive experience for the students, the teachers. Again, the Woodbridge Town Library was wonderful to work with. And as well as my colleagues here, you were professional, marvelous.
Now, if I may, we also had a program at Ezra Academy. And
Yeah.
Sheila was in charge of that program. Sheila, would you like to join the team? Yeah.
So I would have to say that Melanie Wing and her team at Ezra Academy was warm and welcoming and positive and supportive. The office staff, Melanie, every day, the custodian was wonderful. They treated us like part of the family. It was wonderful. The classrooms were perfect. I have to say that Greg did an amazing job with his team of getting things delivered on the spot and picked up on the spot. Technology team came over, set us all up so that we could use what we needed to use, and then retrieve it all at the end of the sessions. But we wanted for nothing. It was smooth and calm and productive.
I'd like to thank Al Pulo, who is the Director of Operations with this whole operation. He goes a lot behind the scenes with Greg and with the custodians. And Al will give an overview as far as the business portion.
How'd that
Thank you
go?
so much, ladies, for a wonderful.
Thank you.
Included in your packet, excuse me, are two highlight summary pieces of information. If I can first start with the enrollment, just as the directors were speaking to all of their programs, absent anyone here this evening from recreation, but just to give you a visual of what the numbers are of students we're talking about that were serviced on average each day. Keep in mind that, for example, like week one, when we do an aggregate total, there's some redundancy in here. So we have some students that attended the summer enrichment program that were also attendees of extended days. So, are there 430 students? Purely no, there's some reduction due to partnering of programs and students participating in more than one program. But all said, even if you were to factor out that, it's a good number of students that were serviced with a variety of programs and activities to do. One footnote on that, the very bottom where it talks extended day enrollment, there looks to have been an omission on that. The statement on the bottom should read, extended day enrollments reported are based on average daily attendance. As you know, there are students that fluctuate. Maybe we're not attending all 5 days or 3 out of the 5 days. So what we do when we report enrollment for that program is look at your average daily for each of the weeks.
And now, if I may add something, recreation is not listed here. We're joined to the hip with recreation. They're all our children. We service all our children. And they service close to 200 children a day, at least that's what I remember. So you would say that well over 500 children, maybe 600 children were serviced a day in one of the many programs that are there.
So at a minimum, we're serving roughly half of our enrollment. 400 out of 800.
Well, again, I think when you look at extended day AM, PM, those are probably somewhat overlapping with the summer enrichment
Some are overlapping.
program.
But when you move from week 1 through week 5, some students disappear and new students sign up.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
true.
So
We-
if a rough estimate of half of the population
I would say, when you add rec to it, I would say
availing
that.
themselves of this program, it's significant.
Do you,
That's not factored in the program. The attendance reported here does not factor in any students
But
that.
it does include the rec numbers, right?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, it does include the rec here, that's okay.
do we have a sense of,
compares to prior years?
that was gonna be my question.
Uh, How does the enrollment?
How does this compare to, so we were worried about enrollment this year, given the fact that we were at diverse venues and we were unsure how it would play out in terms of numbers. Can you give us a sense, like compared to last year, if you were to do this sort of graph?
Steve, what we noticed was that recreation feeds into our program, the extended day program, as well as the summer enrichment program. With a lot of the youngest children housed at the church, we didn't get a feed with the youngest kids into the extended day program. That's what we had seen. And this was a 5-week program versus a 6-week program, because we had always had 6 weeks each summer. But that's where we noticed, and we can see it already this year, because there were many parents that if they were housed at the high school, they would have fed into our program that are already in our kindergarten program this year. So we're thinking probably about 25 students that we may be down with our youngest children.
Sandy, with the enrichment too,
Summer enrichment was down 100 and, I looked at it as sort of slots that were
Yeah.
filled. And summer enrichment from one year to the next was down 147 slots. And I actually looked at some of our programs to try to account for that. One area, for example, we were down 41 slots in sports offerings. And part of that was because we didn't have any location. I mean, we couldn't have a gym because the rec program had the gyms, and the high school runs a couple of camps.
Yeah.
So we were down 41 slots there. We were down 38 slots in kindergarten because instead of having 4 rooms for kindergarten, we had 1. So in the first 2 weeks, we had some slots that were left open, but in the second 2 weeks, we had to turn students away. We were down in our theater program, and again, when you don't have a stage, and when you're at a high school that has a theater program, we were down 40 slots there, and we were down 28 slots. Lego robotics, I sort of can't explain that. We just didn't have as much interest in technology this summer, and that was surprising because over the last few years, technology offerings have always been closed out. And that accounted for 147 slots. I mean, literally, that's about the difference
Yeah.
between last year's and this year's summer.
how did
The other piece that I'd like to speak to is the components, the financial expenditures. 2 components to it. One being that there were expenses that were funded by the Board of Education, and then there were expenses that were funded directly by each of the programs. So we'll first speak to those expenses that were funded by the Board of Ed, also included as a handout in your packet. And those items included such things as the rental fee for Ezra Academy, custodial supplies for the high school, the additional supplies that were created by our program usage and attendance, storage trailers for the high school, because in order to accommodate our furniture, they had to displace existing furniture from classrooms and have a means for which to store it during our stay, as well as the rental fee for Amity. And then there was some custodial overtime on our part for our staff that did the moving in and moving out of the programs twice, and both of those were on extra hours. So all total, the Board of Education funded expenses for the Amity and Ezra programs were $28,784. On the program side, items directly funded from that were things like, for example, Mrs. Salinardi, I believe, spoke to it in her presentation. There was supplemental staffing that needed to be put in place to accommodate the physical structure at Amity. So additional staffing, for example, to escort our youngsters to and from bathrooms, to and from the athletic fields. There was also an additional expense for bus transportation for the extended day program for students coming to use the pool. Additionally, a nurse was needed at the pool. Staffing supplies, I believe Mrs. Simowitz referred to things like booster stools for the facilities needs, some tables, some extra programs. And again, this was resulting from the program directors not being sure how much inventory they needed to carry them through the 4 and 5 week durations of the programs, and knowing that they didn't have access to Beecher should they have run out. So there was some building up of their inventory. Good news for that is likely any remaining inventory will be able to be used for the 15 programs. But those expenses that I just mentioned, the supplies, the busing, and the additional staffing, those were directly borne by each of the programs. And just to remind you, as we've discussed at the Finance Committee meeting, the net loss for the extended day for the summer program was $20,251. And for summer enrichment, the net loss was $2,645.
Those were offset by, we had surplus funds from.
The board's funding was utilized by end of year surplus. The board had approved $25,000 to be devoted towards that. The excess, which was primarily the custodial overtime, we had used from available remaining Board of Ed line item for custodial overtime, which was running favorable for the year.
Okay.
So the program balances are intact.
I'm sorry, the program?
The cash reserves of each of the programs that we've built.
Correct.
Generally looking at are intact.
What, I spoke with the superintendent at Amity. He was very, very generous in his leadership and really helping us over obstacles and going to Amity. We learned a lot. We didn't know what to expect, but we serviced our children. I don't think they noticed it. I think everyone who participated was like hand in glove. But they're willing to have us back, and as a superintendent, I would recommend that this coming summer is going to be a lot of heavy work that's going to be done at the school. So it's going to be a construction site from one end to the other. I was asked to make a recommendation at this meeting. I recommend that we thank our directors and teachers and continue with the program at Amity and at Ezra. Ezra will have us back.
Questions?
How do we anticipate it looking financially next year? It seems like none of these expenses that were borne by the Board of Ed really change next year. They're likely to be incurred at similar levels next year. And then what about the program balance?
I think with that, first of all, we've learned a lot. We work very well as a team, all of us, bringing all ends of the circle together. I think we're in a better position to anticipate, for example, with extended day, et cetera, how many extra staff members we'll need, things like that. I would like to ask Recreation in the coming year to contribute also, so that might lower the expenses for us on our side. There will be some cost. That conversation we can continue in our Finance Committee each month, and we could look for either a combination of I don't know if there'll be any contingency from the building fund to help with some of the moving costs. That might be one area that we could pick up. Something in our own budget as we go towards the end of the year. Something on the town side. So like a synergy, everyone putting together to make it work. And again, the payoff is that we're serving our community and keeping things intact. Even when you look at the high school, if you look at the variety of programs mentioned here, summer rec, they had a theater program and so on. Our children and families were given lots of choices, and we took care of our children. And I'll mention too, thanks to the police department and to the town, Officer Lynch was there 100% of the time at the high school too. So
all you need from us at this point is just, I think we don't want to cut the programs. So We just need to sort of move forward with budgeting for
That's
what
correct.
would
And
be
then we'd have to come to the
anticipated.
board on that part there as far as the budgeting.
So we don't need a decision tonight, right?
Yeah.
Any questions?
I think you guys all did an amazing job of making it seem as seamless as possible for the students and parents. I can only imagine the logistical
I
analysis involved.
I thank our directors and our Director of Operations here too, Greg Kula. Do you want to vote to continue? Do we have a vote?
Do we need a motion for it?
You would want to do that when the budget comes in the spring.
But we have to plan for it, we have to hire people and things like that.
It's not on the agenda to do that. So they'd have to
Vote to add it to the agenda.
vote to add to the agenda if you want to take a formal vote on it.
That would give us a signal to move ahead though.
Well, I think we can come to a general consensus that we all want you to plan for it. Would that be fair? At least budget for it and give us a
Record that
budget.
as a sense of the meeting.
Sense of the meeting, is that fine?
Okay, sure.
Anybody have
Put it
an
in the
issue with
minutes
that?
like that.
All right, so
Very
there's a
good.
general consensus, you continue, please.
Thank you, school board members. So directors, we're moving ahead. Start planning.
Anything else in your
Here
report?
goes, all over
All right.
Take
Facilities committee?
We met on November 6th, and I'll keep it brief because Dr. Della touched on much of what we discussed. We got an update on the Tools for Schools program, which has kicked off its year and is doing very well as they have in the past. We got an update on the upgrade and the budget process, and we also received an update on sustainability. We discussed that we got a report on the stewards program, which is up and running, and we discussed some other initiatives with regard to composting and recycling.
Any questions for facilities? All right, BRS building committee, everything. Who's on the BRS building committee? Margaret.
Margaret,
Do you have anything?
well, I gave a short report then.
Okay.
I think that covers it.
All right, policy committee,
Yeah,
Matt's
meeting
not
as
here.
needed, so we haven't had.
Okay. Finance committee, Lisa, I'm gonna give it to you since Margaret is not here and she chaired the meeting and Carl and I were not at the meeting, so.
Well, apart from looking at the monthly figures, our primary activity was hearing from Dr. Stella about the budget planning process. So I will kick it over to Dr. Stella.
I'll give it over to her.
Hot potato on the report, all right.
Any high points that
Have
you want?
access to it, but I think Margaret's
Minutes.
minutes are
Yep.
attached on finance.
Yep.
Yeah, they were.
That helps you.
Yeah, no, I saw it, they are.
Um,
They're brief.
Yeah, one thing we mentioned was that we had it, as we said, as our agreement with the town, we would always be transparent and mention any unexpected cost. At this point, we have unexpected costs in special ed amounting to about $55,000. But because of unexpected savings in some of the other accounts, at this point, that's covered. And at this point, we have a projected surplus of about $28,000.
That's what we could know. Okay.
But special ed, I always say this year is very fluid, and we will keep the board updated on any actions, pluses or minuses.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on finance? CABE liaison report.
Nothing apart from the CABE conference, that was the CABE highlight of the month.
And I don't think we had anyone go to ACES last week. Still. All right. Upcoming meeting presentations. Dr. Stella, you want to just,
I think we have on there,
so the budget and the math initiative.
Yeah,
And
the
the
math
goal of
budget-
this was just to make sure that everyone,
right.
if there's specific things you want to know about in the budget presentation, although Dr. Stella gives a very thorough budget presentation, I'm not worried we're not going to get the answers we need out of that presentation. The math initiative, if there's any specific things that people want to make sure we address when we discuss the math program.
Do you have more specifics about what is on the agenda for the math initiative discussion? Is it
We
just
could
an
give you,
update?
we could give you an update on what progress we're making with the initiative, what we're doing with the tri-state, more about the implementation in the classroom program. Gina, you want to add anything?
Our work with our work with Emily Friel for professional development for the teachers from ACES.
It could be a short one, but expanded one from the first time.
I don't know to what extent other people share my interest, but I was interested in getting a little bit of background about our curriculum and our curriculum choices, so, what it is we're doing and what the other options
Yeah, we could talk about how,
we've chosen.
How the curriculum is chosen.
how we're continuing to develop it. We could talk about that.
And also, how differentiation is moving into math. You know, it's more challenging in the math curriculum than in the reading and writing. What progress is being made in that area.
So curriculum differentiation. And what we'll do is give a whole series of shorter reports, but keeping you up to date as we move along.
Do we have
And
anything
then budget
else?
would be the big thing.
Budget. We'll give you numbers. All right. Any public comment? Anyone sign up while we were diligently listening and discussing? Anyone speaking? No, we're good? All right.
Move it.